Oh, yeah. We're practicing something I thought we're trying to do this in honest meeting. Yeah.
We are now going to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority Board of Directors. Today is April 28th, 2022. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor.
Yeah, if you could put your hand over your heart and join me in our nation's pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have I'm having a wonderful time with my seat tonight. Do we need to use these mics? No. Okay. We do have Spanish translation services available by logging into Zoom. If you are using a laptop or iPad, make sure your microphones are turned off to avoid interference with the OWL system. Now it's time for the general, we got to do roll call, sorry.
Director Craig is absent. Director Collins?
Here.
Director Jimenez?
Here.
Director Phillips is absent. Director Bocha?
Here.
Director Silva? Present. Vice President Cummings?
Here.
Alternate Vice President Simpson?
Present.
And we have Director Label.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Perfect. And I do want to mention that Kimberly Craig had an emergency. She did plan on being here. And her alternate could not. Is he on his way? Good, he's on his way. Okay, moving on, general manager comments.
I have no comments tonight. Sorry I couldn't be there for our welcoming home meeting, but we'll do our best in absentia. I would like to, at the request of Supervisor Phillips, who is going to be unable to make the meeting tonight, pull item 7 for a few brief comments from him.
Okay, item 7 pulled. And that's from the consent agenda?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Any other comments from department managers? Mandy?
You have a green kitchen pail in front of you on the board of directors. If you already have one, that's okay. You can leave it and I'll collect it after the meeting. But this is for the new food scraps composting program that's curbside. So you can collect all your veggie trimmings, leftover food scraps in this pail and then empty it into your yard waste, your existing yard waste green cart at your home. On the pail is a hot stamp with a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it goes directly to our website with all the information. So that's why you don't have a flyer, then use paper, recycle. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, please feel free to take it and hopefully use it.
Thank you, Mandy. That QR code is a great idea. Any other department managers?
I don't know.
Okay. Moving on, are there any comments from board directors? Rob?
And I'll start off actually by adding something on the container but using mine in our house for a while now. It's worked out really well. One thing I've learned, and because I know one of the comments that I get from people is like, what about the smell and stuff like that? So you know what I do is I have it by the sink, and then we take it out and empty it in the bin outside, and then when I bring it back in, I rinse it out and then I spray it with bleach just to keep stuff from growing in there, and that's worked out really well. So I love it. I know I've given you kudos before, and it continues to be great. And I'm seeing more and more people coming into our city hall to pick them up. Another note, I just wanted to thank the authority, thank Waste Management as well. We had a really successful quarterly cleanup as part of the Earth Day weekend. It went really well, had a whole bunch of people dropping off stuff. that waste management, and then on the household hazardous waste side, that was really successful. And then we also partnered with King City and Bloom, which my wife is the chair of the cleanups, where residents come to a central spot, get bags, and go out and pick up trash and clean up our town. And that was really successful. So it's a nice event all around, and with the multiple partners involved, including the authority. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
I've got one quick comment. We're actually doing the cleanup day this weekend, this Saturday in Greenfield, out of our corporation yard. So for any of you that are watching in Greenfield, bring a load out. If you've got the flyer that they sent out, you actually get your first load for free. So bring out your waste, and we're looking forward to seeing how much we can collect.
So on that note, the city of Salinas did do theirs last weekend as well. And we're calling ours More Salinas. So if anyone's watching and is interested in picking up trash bags, you can always go to City Hall and get additional trash bags. And we are always looking for volunteers to do additional More Salinas projects within the city. So thank you very much. This is that moment when we invite the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda tonight. For the record, there are no public comments received via email after the deadline, correct?
Correct.
To make public comment via Zoom, click the raised hand icon, and from the telephone, *9, and it's *6 to mute and unmute yourself.
We do have one public comment.
Perfect.
Mr. Cummings, can you hear us?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Felix Martin Huerta Jr. As you know, I am the business agent for the Engineers Local Union Number 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible for me to get my video so I can actually see, you can see who I am?
We can see your little icon picture, but we cannot see your picture.
Well, it is controllable on your side, I believe, but very well. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Felix Martin Huerta Jr. I'm the Operating Engineers Local Union Number 3 business agent assigned to negotiate the contract with Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority. So I wanted to formally introduce myself now that we have won the election to represent the employees. We do have, and we have been in negotiations with your bargaining team. Recently, in the month of March, you assigned your attorney to participate in that bargaining process. And so we have been engaged in bargaining with your group. We do want to say that there are a couple of things that we need to really make sure you understand we need to have as part of the MOU. Number one, of course, we want to address the issue of wages for employees. The second part is of some sort of process for acknowledgement of the union, including the recognition that if employees choose to voluntarily become members of the union, there's a dues deduction process, and each of you have dues deduction process in your own contracts with the unions in your cities and counties. The other thing that we really need to make sure is something called a dispute resolution policy. When the agency first was created in 2004, your management at the time created what we call an alternative dispute resolution policy in order to ensure that employee had a fair, just resolution of any unjust act. If it's possible for Patrick to forward I have made a request for him to do that, to send it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. In 2004, you created a dispute resolution policy, but unfortunately, it never was presented to you as a board. And so your grievance procedure has 2 or 3 steps where it would go through the supervisor, administration, and even to the board. But it never was able to go to this final and binding arbitration process that in 2004, your management created but never presented to you. We're asking for that policy to be instituted as part of the contract that we're proposing. We have proposed binding arbitration, the alternative dispute resolution policy that you will ultimately get. And if you don't get it today, you're going to get it between now and the next time we have a bargaining session with the authority, because we do want to make sure you understand what we're talking about. There's got to be a fair and just way for a dispute to be resolved, whether it's a violation of the MOU or an unjust disciplinary action. It's got to be fair and just with an impartial hearing officer, arbitrator that has final and binding authority to make the decision whether the authority took appropriate action or not. And so we hope that you would take a look at that. And the next time that we meet with your management team, we are meeting tomorrow, but of course it's too quick a notice for you to be able to raise this with them. And so at your next board meeting, we'd like to raise this again, make sure you have a copy of it. And we look forward to a successful contract negotiations with you and your bargaining team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Felix. Any other public comment?
No.
Anyone in the room? I would like to back up to department manager comments or board of director comments. I think there's a few of us sitting here that would like to ask Roy how we continue to entertain having virtual meetings and having meetings that are both in person and virtual.
Sure, yes. I spoke with Erica a little bit about this earlier today. So as most of the directors, I believe, know, as of April 1st, the state of California emergency order expired, which was kind of the founding principles of SB 361 that authorized the remote meetings absent the normal Brown Act requirements of posting your location and having your location open to the general public. Under that provision, though, it still allows if a county, for example, if the county health officer were to issue a state of emergency order in Monterey County, the authority could use that as a basis to put forward a new SB 361 resolution, basically similar to the ones that we did before. The ones we did before that were reliant on the state of California state of emergency. We would then need to rely on an order from a local official, meaning the local county health official, and we could use that as a basis for a new SB 361 ordinance, which would allow the meetings to proceed as they did before, in either a fully remote fashion or a hybrid remote fashion, without having to do without having to open up your home or your office, if that's where you're going to be doing a remote attendance to the public, and then also posting it with the agenda. So that would be the only option that we would have as a public agency, to have remote meetings without complying with the normal Brown Act notice requirements.
Perfect. Thank you for that information, Roy. We appreciate it. Moving on to the consent agenda, we know that item 7 was pulled. Yes, sir.
Last.
But we're
We're not using the microphones, we're using.
Oh, my God. I just wanted to comment on the possibility of hybrid meetings. Obviously, I'm a big fan of them. I filling in for Supervisor Lopez today. But I obviously, Supervisor, we're conducting our own meetings in hybrids, and we're part of a lot of different agencies. They're also all doing the hybrid meetings, obviously within 30 days. If you have to make sure that if your next meeting is not within 30 days to do the AB 361 findings, that's pretty standard. But I'm a fan of them because I know this is only going to last a few more months. As soon as the state removes that declaration, we're going to go back to in-person meetings. So I always try to enjoy it while we can. But I'm also a big fan because it reduces the carbon emissions, the driving, gas is very expensive. But as an elected official, I'm able to do a lot more things before, during this meeting, and right afterwards. And Zoom lets us plan a lot more meetings. And today I obviously have to cancel my afternoon session to come here in person. So I just wanted to express that hopefully if there's that possibility, for many good reasons, as an elected official, we would get a lot more done by having that Zoom capability for a few more months. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment on it?
I serve with Supervisor Aerated on the Salinas Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency board, and we regularly do the findings pursuant to AB 361 to continue to have those meetings in that hybrid manner, or actually it's entirely Zoom. So I think that should members of this board want to do a hybrid, they should consider that as well.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, now moving on. Moving on to the consent agenda. Would any board members like to pull any additional items from the consent agenda? Would any member of the public like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Actually, I have
Yes, sir.
one of the items on the consent agenda is an update on the Sun Street Transfer Station irrigation project. So I don't know if we're going to be getting the update on that.
That is the item 7 that Patrick's pulled.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully, yes. So approval would be everything but second.
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Director Alejo,
Aye.
Director Holland,
Aye.
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Rocha,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Aye.
alternate Vice President Dixon,
Aye.
and Vice President Thomas.
Yes. Patrick, item 7.
All right, thank you, member. Just a quick update. I have been speaking with Director Phillips off and on for the last several weeks. He's been trying to champion getting this project back on track after we were notified that there was a possible permitting delay associated with the Madison Lane Transfer Station's use permit. He did meet with the director of RMA yesterday. We had a long call this morning to talk through what's going on. And the short version of it is that they're going to have to reapply for their use permit for the facility, that the current one is not adequate to meet the needs of the project. And so this is, a surprise to all of us, since the county did issue the solid waste facilities permit, and it was concurred with by the state. But as we all know, use permits, land use permits trump all other permits. And so this issue's been raised. They have been working again with Supervisor Phillips' office on this, and have assured him, based on the conversation yesterday, that there is a path forward. Republic has submitted some of the required information already, but they are expecting it'll take somewhere between 7 and 8 months, which means we're looking at the end of the calendar year in the best case scenario for relocation. This does present a problem for the authority. We have approved a budget and rates based on the assumption that we were going to be an understanding that we were going to be relocating on or before July 1st. So Ray and I and Caesar will be working diligently over the next couple of weeks to look at options for how we make those temporary adjustments to the budget, and we'll be returning those back to both the executive committee and the full board in May and June for discussion about modifications to our budget and rate schedule in the interim. Because as you know, we made some concessions, rate reductions, staffing reductions, and those won't be sustainable, for half of a fiscal year. We're going to have to do something in the interim to get us through until that relocation green light is given to us to be able to move our operations over to Madison Lane. So with that, if there's any questions, that's just a very quick update from Director Phillips' office.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm saddened to hear that. Let's go ahead and go around the room and make sure no one has comments. Supervisor, do you have any comments? Any comments?
I just hope that for the sake of moving this forward, we can all come together to figure out what the most rapid solution to this could be. I know this has been something that's been in the works for many years, and we're this close to making it happen. So I hope that, you know, at least I think, speaking on behalf of the city, seeing as we're willing to do whatever it takes to get this thing moving forward, and, you know, working with the county, with the public, this Valley Solid Waste Authority, I'd like to see us continue to move forward in a positive trajectory.
Thank you, Anthony. Anything else? Thank you so much, Patrick, for the information. Can I have a motion to approve this item? Since it is on consent agenda.
So
Second. Director Level.
Aye.
Director Collins.
Aye.
Director Jimenez.
Yes.
Director Rocha.
Yes.
Director Silva.
Aye.
Motion by Vice President Hickman.
I,
Vice President Cummings.
Okay, moving on. We have a presentation from our organics. Atlas Organics is gonna show us what they got.
They brought almost all the crew.
Yeah, I see that.
I see that.
I like it.
We actually have an audience. Good evening, Vice President Cummings and members of the board. If you remember, last month, we approved the agreement with Atlas Organics to assume operations of our composting facility. So, welcome. And so we have started bi-weekly meetings with them. We've also started a transition plan for our current processor, Vision Recycling, to move off-site and have Atlas come in. Big transition, lots of constructions happening. So we wanted to give you all an update because it also involves hiring a staff, existing staff and local staff for Atlas to come in. So I will not present everyone, but I will introduce Eli Stillwell. She's the project manager. She's who I've been working with over these contract negotiations. And then they will, I think, cycle through and they have a presentation. So,
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. So again, I'm Eli Stillwell. I'm the project manager for Atlas Organics Development Department. Like Baby said, we've been working together to get this started. We go through a quick little introduction for everyone we've got. We've got our director of sales and marketing, Leslie Rogers. This is her second time here to the site, so she's very excited. Sarah Knights, she is our general manager. Duncan Williams, he is an asset manager. Derek Bond, finance manager. Wes Holiday, IT manager. And then George Farragus is director of HR. So we're here to answer any questions. We've got a great presentation for you, and we're very happy to be here, and feel very welcome, and thank you so much for having us. So again, this is just updates. So we go to the first. So our first update is on the sort line. With the sort line, this is a big piece of the construction that we're planning for this facility. We did end up deciding to do a competitive bid process. So we bid out to 4 different companies. We're in the final stages of selecting our vendor. We narrowed it down to our top choice and are actually doing reference visits in the next week and 2 weeks. So we ended up submitting identical bids to these vendors. Several of them came to our San Antonio site in order to get, a feel for what it is that we're looking for, what we see improvements can be here. And so here's some examples, just of some drawings that we got. But we're really excited about this iteration. We think that this is we're gonna learn a lot of lessons from San Antonio and think that this will really be optimized, especially for the robots. So just going through our criteria, we had a committee formed for this, and we scored each presentation on a basis of understanding the scope, organics experience, flexibility, and overall approach ranking. We decided that for this project, it was important to have a partner that was willing to work with us and understood our needs more so than we experienced in the past. So this is an example just of one of our scorecards. So again, like I said, we're doing some visits next week and hope to have our final contract soon by the end of the month. Similarly with our contractor, we did a competitive RFP process for this as well. We submitted to two design firms. We originally approaching this project thought we were going to do an EPC kind of design where it's all encompassing design, build, supervision. So we bid out to CDM Smith, RRT, and JRMA. And we felt that with the Green Mountain design that y'all put together, that is a really good design, and we think it's going to work well for us. And so we didn't need to go back to the drawing board and design a whole new system for something that is robust and working well. So in the end, we decided to go with the design build contract instead of the PPC. So we will be working with Green Mountain to just do some updates on the current project and on the current systems, just to kind of integrate with the systems we have built out with our reporting temperature measuring. On the marketing side, Leslie and her team have been working diligently to understand this market. It is new to us, and so we're taking that very seriously and want to get ahead of it. We have someone on our team that has done an extensive market research. She was on site, I believe, in March, and she was here for the week, going to different farms, checking out landscapers, retail, getting a real lay of the land in order to really understand what it is that we're stepping into and make sure that we have a very strong marketing plan on day one and are able to help whoever our local salesperson will be really grow and thrive in the area. Similarly, Leslie has been out a few times. She's been meeting with some of the large ag customers and potential verticals. So another big part that we're starting to think through is the construction transition plan. And kind of in coinciding with the transition plan revision. And so since we will be doing a refit on the aeration pad, we wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to still process material incoming while construction is going on, so that we're not backlogging, creating a mess. Really want everything to be efficient and just moving smoothly. So pending, we know you need to talk to the air board in order to get this approved permit-wise, but our solution here, we have a modular aerated static pile unit. So basically what you see here on the left is a storage container that has solar panels mounted to the top that will then connect to a blower system and pipes that will allow us to still process material and get to a PFRP and have a finished product even while under construction. And here's some more photos of the modular unit. Everything fits in that container, and so we'll be able to ship everything to have ready July 1st. And so here we've got a high-level timeline. Again, we'll be starting July 1st. Atlas will be back on site May 17th in order to meet the vision, in order to get a more firm transition plan of where material will go, where we can store equipment once it is being delivered. All our equipment deliveries are currently scheduled for the last week of June, as well as commissioning. We hope to be here 2 to 3 days before the start of receiving material in order to make sure that we're getting everybody their certifications, that we're training people in very extensive new employee training program in order to make sure that we're adhering and meeting all of those safety standards for our operators. Similarly, in the next 2 weeks, we hope to have our job postings out and circulated. We are hoping to have that circulated to current vision employees first in order to, make sure that they're not stranded. We do have a top grading program that is a 3-part interview program. At Atlas, we have a really strong culture and really want to make sure that our operators are fitting in well and understand what it is that our culture is about. So all candidates will go through that process. And again, we want to be able to work with vision and help those employees. In terms of construction, we're phasing out the construction. Our phase 1 will be the aeration pad. And then phase 2 will be sort line construction. We'll prioritize the aeration pad. We're anticipating that to take 2 to 4 months, starting in the end of July. We want to give ourselves a little bit of time to get on site, process material, kind of get a handle on everything before ripping everything out and starting new. Something to note is on all outlet sites that we have in partnership with municipalities, there has been a construction piece while ongoing operations is happening. Sarah can attest to that. So our operations team is very experienced and very comfortable with having to keep that in mind and work around any kind of construction. Phase 2 construction in the sort line, we're hoping to begin that in October of this year. Things are a little tentative with just, supply chain issues. So we're hoping to have that done. Originally, we were hoping for February 2023. There's potential that it could go out further than that, but we're still holding on hope for the February 23, and I don't think that that's too out of the realm of possibility. And so once we have that, we'll have a full site stabilization, and we'll be operating at the top, hopefully. So happy to answer whatever questions you have, direct them to, who may be the best fit.
Well, let's start with supervisor and go around the room. Questions? Questions? Any comments?
Looking forward to seeing the work.
Yeah.
Great one. Awesome questions. No one else is gonna ask. Okay, so those companies that you're vetting to award the bid, so Eco versus number 1. Who built San Antonio? Who built that?
So with San Antonio, we did an EPC program, and it was just someone we had a relationship with at some of our other sites. It's Crowder Construction. They're primarily in the Southeast. They're not licensed in California. And so with that, we were like, okay, we gotta find a good partner. I think, I was gonna try to tell you how far west they go, but yeah, they're just not interested in doing anywhere in California.
So and then, so that phase 1 and phase 2, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but so in my mind, I'm thinking of phase 1 is just kind of like the temporary, just to be able to do some activities, but phase 2 then, once that's complete, then that's the permanent.
So phase 1 will still be a permanent phase. That is just the current aeration pad. So kind of the transition plan, I think, is our temporary solution in order to be able to keep up with the site while this phase 1 construction is happening. And so that will be regrading the aeration floor, and then we're going to hope to pour continuous concrete instead of the sections that are bigger.
Okay, got it. And then on the hires, so what's the anticipated head count of local hires at a couple of those important milestones?
Yeah, so on the site, on day 1, we'll have a fully staffed site. And then I think some of the additional hires, the salesperson, that typically is hired 2 to 3 months after.
I will start interviewing the initial interview process when we start construction. So beginning of July, I will be beginning the hiring process for this position.
And what are we looking at headcount wise?
I believe 7, not including the sales representative.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Will we get to see the marketing plan? Will that be something that will come back to us? Just informational?
We do have a market research study. We're happy to present that delivered to y'all. And then marketing plan, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, we have a standard.
I'm just interested in marketing, period.
Yeah. So we have a template that we, signage, announcements, public releases, connections to local media, connections to national media, industry media. So there's a template that we have. And then we just adjust as the site and as the market,
Yeah,
But yes,
because you had said that you have done some research and some reach out to, we're a little bit different of a clientele, let's put it that way.
so the market research that's done going into the site is really helping us plan the project and plan a lot of the financials behind the project. What are the different verticals? What are the different customer groups that we're targeting? What is the need? Obviously, we're in the South of the country and the world. So, that is very different than a place in Florida where it's primarily landscaping or soil blenders. So the initial market study is done to really assess what the immediate need of the project is and then the lifetime of the project. So where do we start and where do we grow? And we really want to aim for the project and finance model to hit that full lifetime of the project.
Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate that. Anything else? Anything from the public? See none, we will go ahead and deem this report received. Nothing from our general counsel or our general manager, right?
No, nothing from, we're just happy to have them on board.
So recycling recognition.
Done.
Yay.
But it won't be me. It is, I'll introduce Stella Gutierrez. She is our resource recovery tech. And she'll be presenting, we're giving 2 awards tonight, one to a business in Greenfield who unfortunately could not join us, but also a school in Salinas. And so we do have a representative from that school district here to receive the award. So I will turn it over to Stella.
Thank you, Mandy.
I want to make sure everyone's sleeping. So good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. So I'm happy to be back to recognize some of the schools, and I'm happy that we're joined by Catherine Ramirez, the Vice President of the Salinas City Elementary School District. That is here representing the school. And virtually we have the teacher Evelina. So I'm happy to display this zero waste program that Activity is doing with no help with the district, because they form a green team and the teacher Evelina was leading the program since the beginning. So I think it all started like a year ago when we came to the classroom, to her classroom, and we started talking about the zero waste programs that other schools were doing. So she got inspired and says, I want to do the same at Activity. And I told her, yes, we're coming to help you, but we want you to form a green team. We want you to do all of this before we come to your school. And yes, she went on, and she got the buy-in from the principal, from the custodial, from the staff, and the students. So I'm just gonna go over some of the highlights, and have you see there in the photo, we have done all these programs along with the hauler, which is the public services. Salinas Valley Recycle donated the milk dispenser, the milk waste bin there. They also donated the recycling bin, the food waste carts, and the training that we came aboard. But the school who takes all the credits, because if it wasn't for them, none of these programs were implemented. So some of the highlights, can you go to the next? So you see that's the 5, kind of like the 4 diversion program. And just by implementing this, they reduce the garbage on hot. So, can you go to the next one? So they form a green team. They're basically started with like 5 members, and now they up to 20 members who they oversee the trash every day. And the reason behind forming a green team is because you're shooting for 0%, kind of like 0% contamination, especially in the food waste bin. Since it's coming to our composting operation, we want to see 0, like no plastic, no paper, no metal, no plastic. Go to the next one. So So as I told you, we're blessed to have Miss Catherine here with us. And I'm just gonna go over some of the highlights that I kind of explained it mostly all of it, but one is the Natividad School is the first school in the Salinas Elementary School District that set up this diversion program in the cafeteria to comply with some of the AB 1383 requirements to reduce waste. They set up a liquid diversion bin to divert leftover milk, juice, and water from the students. They also set up an empty milk carton recycling program to recycle the empty milk cartons. They also implementing stacking up the trays. So basically, by doing this is, you know, when you put all your garbage loose, it creates a big volume of garbage. So we train the students to stack up all the trays. And just by doing that, the custodian used to go back and forth to the garbage area like 12 times during the half an hour lunch that they had. And by doing the stacking up the trays, he only had to go 2 times. So we reduced not only the volume, but also garbage bags. And in addition to all of the programs, the one that we were shooting for, it was implemented, that was the food scrap diversion program. So now they are diverting 128 gallons of food scraps per week. So that means they diverted around 300 pounds, about 8 tons of food waste from the landfill per year. So as I told you, the school also formed a great team of students that oversee all the diversion during launch, and they have now 20 members. And they also, by doing that, they reduce the workload of the custodians, and they provide sustainable long-term success of the program. So when you have someone who help and they're there every day, it's less work for everybody. And we have the students who are so proud, and hopefully they are in the classroom, because I know teacher Louina was gonna virtually join because she couldn't come because they have an open house. So the principal was gonna come, she was gonna come, some of the students were gonna come, but then she realized that the open house was today. So that's the reason. So it is an honor to present this certificate of recognition to Natividad School for being a steward to the environment and community by successfully implementing comprehensive diversion programs in the cafeteria to reduce waste and to increase recycling. So diverting waste by reducing, recycling, and composting extend the life of our local landfill for a healthier Salinas Valley.
Thank you very much for this certificate of recycling recognition. My name is Catherine Ramirez. I'm the Vice President, Salinas City Elementary School District. I know that Eloina, Ms. Rubio is here by Zoom, but I'm truly honored to be asked by Ms. Rubio to accept this award on behalf of her and the students and all of the work that they are doing in our school district. I happen to work in integrated waste, and she did not know that. And I work with SB 1383. I have been along with Luis Alejo to know Ricardo Lara, who wrote SB 1383, and I'm very proud of his work on this. I want you to know that Ms. Trujillo does not get paid extra to do the work that she does with our kids. It's definitely a labor of love. And if you know teachers, you know that they really care about their kids and give a lot of their personal time and money to create success. And so her dedication to our students is unmeasurable. And I want to thank her for that. The work that the kids are doing is ahead of the curve for SB 1383 by diverting the organic waste from the landfill. Hopefully, we're making a difference in the Johnson Canyon, right, landfill. These activities are teaching our kids to be good stewards of the earth. And I remember in the 80s when we were taught to either if it's yellow, let it mellow and reduce water. We were, that's what we were taught, and we were taught to reduce the use of water and do our laundry in the evening, if you remember that. I'm not as young as you might think. And so if we can get our students on board to reduce, reuse, and recycle and divert organic waste, we're gonna have a better environment for our children and grandchildren yet to come. Mr. Hio gave me a quote. I know she's gonna speak, but I'm gonna give two quotes. Kayla Orozco, who is the Green Team leader, said, "Thank you. This experience changed the whole school. Sometimes it was hard, but we got through it. We truly appreciate all of this, and we thank you for helping us make the Green Team." And then Mr. Hio says, "Thank you. I have strong feelings about helping the environment, and I'm so glad to have partnered with SVRA to make Natividad School green." So thank you once again. I have asked our superintendent to bring the kids in for a roundtable discussion so that we can learn from them and duplicate what they're doing from site to site and assist your team, Mandy and Estela, to make this program be a success district-wide. So I'm here as your partner. Thank you so much. On behalf of Mr. Hio, the Natividad School, and the students.
One, two, good. Three. Sorry, brother.
I don't think Mr. Hio is, as tell on the open house. Okay, so we're moving.
Are we gonna come?
We get to comment. And I'm gonna start just because my children went to Natividad School. So I'm a huge Natividad School supporter, so I'm so excited right now. Does anyone else have any other comments going around the room this way?
Well, Natividad School happens to be in my district, but this
Yes.
exists. And I just want to thank the Salinas City Elementary School District for their leadership on this, the principal, all the school site staff and students for their leadership in getting this done. And I know that the leadership team of Salinas City Elementary School District will make sure that we create this as a model and make sure that this success is replicated in all the other schools. And I would like to ask my two colleagues here, if we could also recognize them at our city council meeting.
Yes, that's a great idea.
And make sure that the students have recognition there. This is a great thing, and hopefully more schools will follow. So thank you to Salinas State Elementary School District.
Yes, sir.
So congratulations, first and foremost. But I wanted to hone in on your comment about the round table with the kids. I mean, what an awesome idea about talking with them. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because if you didn't, I was going to say it, is that give us the feedback, because I mean, what better way to go and ask them what works, what doesn't, what do you like about it, what do you want to share, you know, all that stuff. I mean, it's a good opportunity for them to share feedback, but then for us to get that to share with the school, that's just awesome.
So Estela and I have decided that we're gonna meet on a regular basis. And it's kind of a little bit of personal for me as well, because I need to learn, because I'm implementing this work in another county where it's been very difficult. And what better than to use our students who are already doing the work and creating such success. So yes, definitely we'll get the feedback. Thanks.
Awesome. Love it.
Okay, our next recognition is gonna go for Neveria y Paleteria Maru. It's a business located in Greenfield. So unfortunately, the owner was gonna be out of town. She couldn't come, but she said she was gonna connect through Zoom or watch us live on YouTube. So Neveria y Paleteria Maru, we're recognizing them for their outstanding commitment and participation to implement post-scrap diversion program. And this is amazing, because when you come to the businesses to set up a food waste program, they always ask you how much it's gonna cost, what is it? Do I have to pay more? And that's always the issue. And food scrap, they have to pay for the service because now they're adding a new bin into their service. And so we came in, we did our risk assessment, and so we talked to the owner, and we met with her, Salinas Valley Recycle in Tri-Cities, and we start talking to her, and I said, well, we think you're gonna need 164 gallons of food scrap, because I know you have a lot of delicious fruit and all the scraps from the fruit, you can see there, they're very delicious. So, and she goes like, oh, no, I'm gonna need 2, because I produce a lot. I'm like, are you sure you want to start with 2? Because it's gonna cost you more. And she goes, yeah, if I have to do that, and it's a law, I have to do 1 more. So we set it up with 264, but a week later, she calls back and said, I need 1 more. And I said, well, okay, so if that's what you want, and your service. So she added 3 within a period of 2 weeks. So her business is diverting 450 pounds of food scraps per week, about 11 tons of food scraps per year. And one of the things that I have to highlight, that I have never seen such a beautiful waste, her waste is beautiful. It's just different colors and it smells good. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's an honor to recognize Paleteria y Nevería Maru for being such a great steward to the environment and the community, for implementing the food waste diversion program, and we're bringing her certification to her business next week. And also because she was such a great early adopter and she really wanted to do this, we say, hey, can we come? We're trying to do a training video for the rest of the business. Can we come to the business and you let us film and everything? So she said yes, and she's gonna be featured in our next employee training food waste and recycling video. And I think we have a very short video, and we can start 30 seconds, so we can see. And coming to Greenfield, don't forget to visit them.
That looked fabulous. I'm going to Greenfield.
That's a really good place. It is.
Yeah, it looked wonderful. Does anyone have any questions or
I have a quick
comments?
question, where's it located?
It's on Oklahoma.
Like by Oak Street, Walnut?
It's,
I think it's a Camino Real.
it is on El Camino, and it's north of Oak.
North of Oak.
North of Oak, so it's
South of
between Walnut and Oak.
Close to the high school.
Thank you.
Well, for the next meeting. Okay, moving on to future agenda items.
All right, Erica, can you pull that up? I unfortunately can't see. Well, next month, we have our typical financial reports, investment reports. We will be coming back probably with a new item on the agenda to talk a little bit about updates or adjustments to the budget based on the relocation delays. And then, of course, we're pushing very hard to get those MOUs completed before the end of the year. So there'll be hopefully some action around that coming back in May as well. If there's any items on the agenda the board would like to add, subtract, or modify, move around, you can feel free to share those now or share them with Eric and I in the next week or two.
Anything anyone would like to move around, remove?
I'm just about to honestly my request on that.
We are good with your list, Patrick. Thank you.
Yes, Drew. We do have Phil 101 coming in June, and that'll actually be an all hands effort. We'll be going through landfill operations from all the different perspectives: staffing, permitting, engineering, design, and financing as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, we are now moving into item number 12, which is our closed session.
First closed session.
Our first closed session. Closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to confer with legal counsel and real property negotiations. The general manager, Patrick Matthews, and the GM, Caesar, student finance administrator, manager, Ray Hendricks, and general counsel, Roy Santos.
Sorry.
Concerning possible terms and conditions of the acquisition or sale. Do we have any public comment on this before we go into closed session? Seeing no public comment, we are now adjourned to closed session. Wasn't that very professional?
No, because it'd be under something, right?
We are now coming out of closed session. This meeting is reconvening to open session. General Counsel, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Nothing to report out at this time.
Thank you. We're now going to consideration item number 13, a resolution authorizing the acquisition of one parcel APN 003-051-077, authorizing the general manager, chief administrative officer to execute a property sale agreement with Nexus Partners LLC and Friedrich Enterprises LLC in the amount of $3,957,000, a budget allocation of $4,017,000, and finding the acquisition is exempt from the California Environmental Qualities Act. Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So tonight, the board is going to be considering the acquisition of the current office building being leased by the authority. This is an office building that has 3 executive suites in it, one occupied by the authority, one by Geo Entry Services, and one suite that is going to be vacated in a couple of days. This is a great opportunity for the authority to finally have some permanency in their office space, as well as to have some revenue generating potential with the 2 additional suites that are part of this building complex. So with that, I'll go through a little bit about the transaction itself. Again, I want to personally thank our general counsel, Roy Santos, as well as our real estate counsel, Ann Lanfer, also with Roy's office, Alsher Winder, did a great job working through the complexities of the property sales agreement you have in front of you tonight, and negotiating some very favorable conditions for the authority purchase of this property. This property, in our opinion, is below market rate right now. It's approximately $148 a square foot. New construction, as we've discussed before, is somewhere in the range of $450 to over $500 a square foot for new construction. This is a fairly new building. During our tenancy here, it has been maintained in excellent condition by the owners and landlord. You've taken great care to keep the building up and in very good condition. So we believe it's a very excellent price structure for this building. And it also prevents a lot of disruption in the authority operations to have to relocate to new offices by staying in the same building. So with that, I'll go through a little bit of the property sales agreement itself. So if the board approves this agreement tonight, we will be executing it tomorrow. That starts in essence, starts what's called the due diligence period. So what will happen is in the first 3 business days after we execute, we will have to deposit $50,000 deposit into the escrow account, which has already been opened. That is the first half of our good faith deposit. That is refundable, however, because also what happens when that deposit is we begin a 45-day due diligence period where we will be going through a very large volume of material that the sellers have presented us with, things like site reports, hazard reports, environmental assessments, property designs, permits, HVAC reports, reports on improvements. Basically, they've done a lot of our work for us because they've done a lot of the due diligence already on the property. That makes our job a little bit easier. So between staff, myself, as well as Ann and Roy's office, we've already begun to review all those documents, and we'll likely still entertain a couple of additional inspections for the building. Things like a pest inspection. We may hire someone to come in, do a roof inspection, do an updated HVAC inspection, some of the basic component inspections just to assure ourselves that the building is in as sound a condition as it appears to be. So at the end of that 45-day period, we have two choices. We can either terminate the agreement and have our $50,000 deposit refunded, or we accept the building based on our due diligence on the building's condition. And at that point, if we accept it, we provide an additional $50,000 deposit for a total of $100,000. At that point, it is not refundable. That $100,000 is applied against the total sale price, and the escrow closing period is approximately 15 days from that point. So all in all, we have 60 days until the building is completely, till the sale is closed and the authority becomes owners of that building. So with that, I'll stop for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Patrick. Does any member of the board have any questions? Councilmember.
Patrick, I just wanted, for the sake of making sure that we have it on the record, the discussion related to the purchase of this building is separate from our plan to move the transfer station out of its current location, correct?
Yes, it is. Totally independent of that. They're not related in any way, shape. This is just establishing permanent office space for the authority's ongoing business.
And just to restate it, there was extensive search to try and find another location, and those efforts were not successful, which is what led us back to this decision, correct?
Yes, we looked at new construction, substantially higher in cost than this building. We also looked at a couple of rehabilitation projects. Were lower cost, but had a substantial amount of cost in rehabilitating the buildings. As we know, we often refer to those things as money pits because you don't always know what you're getting until you start opening up walls. So we felt this was the best compromise of the other two pathways that we looked at.
Questions?
Anyone else? So Patrick, this also leaves the staff of the Solid Waste Authority in place to continue to do their job efficiently while we are trying to move Sun Street, correct?
Correct.
And it also has the capability of later on having a bigger space where we can have our own meetings and not have to travel, correct?
Correct.
Thank you so much.
We wanted to travel.
It changes to mass travel.
I meant the staff.
Some of us want further.
It just happens to be in Salinas.
So if we got a facility in Greenfield, you'd be okay with that?
Yeah. Does the public have any comment?
Is it public?
Seeing none, we will bring it back. We need a action.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
comments on it? Erica?
Director Levin,
Aye.
Director Somia,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Aye.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Rocha,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Aye.
motion Vice President Tipton,
Aye.
and Vice President Cummings.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yeah, you do.
We have one.
Maybe audibility. Okay, we are now going to go back into closed session for those of you that may have joined us. This is item number 14 pursuant to government code section 54957.6 to provide instruction to the general manager, Patrick Matthews, general counsel Roy Santos, and labor counsel Colin J. Tanner to negotiate salaries and benefits of non-management administration unit operating engineers, local union number 3 unit, and at-will management capabilities. Thank you for joining us.
We have public comment.
Public comment.
And we have-
Felix.
Yes, I spoke a couple of weeks ago just about the reference in the closed session item. We're no longer called the non-management and administration unit. And so we would respectfully request either delete that section out of the reference or just call us operating engineers, local union number 3. But we actually have an agreed to name under PERB. And so I'm going to ask one more time, please correct our name. We've asked before and reiterating our request again. Patrick is well aware of our official name of the unit. We'd like to request that. Thank you.
Felix, for my information, what is that name you'd like to be called?
Officially, we're the operating engineers, local union number 3, comma, AFL-CIO. The bargaining unit is incorporated into the petition itself. And so I will provide that to Patrick to make sure that it gets updated, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other public comment?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Felix. See no other public comment, we will now go into closed session. Session.
It's us.
I can hear you, Erica.
Oh, great, thank you.
Okay, we are now coming back into open session. General counsel, is there anything to report out from closed session?
Nothing to report out at this time.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I want to thank our partners from Atlas for joining us tonight. It was very nice to meet all of you. Thank you for coming. And with that, meeting is adjourned.
Be safe.
Only 5 minutes late. We're going to stop.